Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. A young university student with a promising career as an actor and model is brutally attacked.
This car would come in and out of various cameras, and it looked all the world like a shark circling.
They were just chatting in a happy moment. When they walked out, they had hugged each other to say goodbye for the evening.
What's your emergency, sir?
I just heard gunshots. Bang, 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 bang.
The manner in which Maple was killed was very traumatic.
But they were slashes, and they just simply looked like somebody who was in a rage.
My exact words to him were, "Why did you hurt Maple?"
We never had one single piece of evidence that was definitive.
It was going to be a very difficult case.
Here now is Kamal Karamali with Picture Perfect, the shattered dreams of Maple Batalia.
She didn't know it at the time, but what you're watching here would be the last night of 19-year-old Maple Battalia's life. She spent her final few hours being the girl everyone knew her to be, happy, bubbly, laughing, while studying with her friends at the Simon Fraser University campus in Surrey, British Columbia. But that night, someone else was watching her.
What's your emergency, sir?
I just heard gunshots, and it's on the other side of Surrey Central towards the bus station.
Okay, how many did you hear?
At least 7 in concession. One right after the other. Bang, 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 bang.
District 1 for a shots fired. All the info we have is the SOC's in a brand new white Charger. Multiple calls on this.
I may have a name for the female here. The two I've got here know her. Surname is Battalia, unknown spelling, given one of Maple. She's going to be about 19.
In the early morning hours, on September 28, 2011, Maple Battalia was walking to her car when she was ambushed. She was shot and then attacked with a knife.
A 19-year-old aspiring model and actress was murdered in Surrey early this morning.
Family members are confirming to Global News that the girl who was shot and killed was 19-year-old Maple Batalia of Surrey. According to her father, she was studying in the library with friends and getting into her car to drive home when she was shot multiple times at close range.
I was in my room sleeping, and I just remember my mom banging on the door saying, "Maple's hurt, Maple's hurt." And I was just kind of like, what the heck is going on?
My elder daughter called so many hospitals where she is, but nobody answered.
Finally, we heard back that she'd been taken to Royal Columbian, and I just remember with Maple's best friend and her mom came over. They drove with us to the hospital. Everyone was just really shooken up.
We are sitting in the room, the doctor came. He said, I think maybe they hurt a little bit.
We thought she was injured in such a manner where she might survive.
And I remember just sitting in the room and the doctor coming in, telling us, oh, we couldn't save her, she's gone. And here we were expecting that, oh, you know, she's just hurt, she'll be okay. So it was just really like devastating, and it was just, she just went to school to study, like this can't be real.
There was hope this could be an open and shut case. The attack happening in an open parking lot, plenty of windows facing the scene of the crime. There had to be witnesses who saw who did it.
I heard like 5 shots. It was like 2 quick and then 3 more that followed.
I was woken up out of a dead sleep and I called 911 immediately.
When we first received the phone call, it was said that they had identified the suspect and they were out actively looking to arrest this person. So I thought, that's great. If we have a suspect, maybe this will be a quick investigation.
Many heard the gunshots, many saw the white car driving away, but it turns out no one could say for sure who was behind the wheel.
There wasn't a single person that actually witnessed the shooting.
No witnesses, but police soon discover a major clue hidden out of sight at the crime scene.
I saw a large knife that was between the two vehicles, in between Maple's vehicle and just another person that was studying. It's just a vehicle that was parked beside her.
But once again, any hope to find a suspect was quickly dashed. The knife, it had no fingerprints.
Ultimately, the knife had so much blood on the knife that overpowered any, DNA that the offender may have had on there.
But the campus had security cameras everywhere. They needed to track Maple's last moments alive to find answers.
It's always a race against the time of that video being overwritten. The first step was to literally look through every hour of that footage, every minute of that footage, and clip anything to do with Maple.
There are more than 700 hours of surveillance video to pore over, but soon enough, they're able to spot Maple. She arrives at the campus at around 7 p.m.
She was sitting at a table in SFU with a number of her friends, we'll say socializing, studying, and the camera actually pans around on a timed routine. And then it zooms in, and for whatever reason, this camera turned and zoomed right in on Maple. And what you could see was she was on her phone, she was chatting, she was laughing and smiling.
The night seems like any other. The cameras around campus catching Maple's every move.
They were just chatting and speaking about things in general, and it was a happy moment, from what I gather, when they walked out.
It's now 1 a.m. and Maple and 3 friends are leaving the campus. They head out of the building towards the parking lot, a hug goodbye with one of her friends as she parts ways with the rest of the group.
Well, they all walked in a different direction, and she walked, maybe 30 feet?
There is only one camera in the parking lot that's facing the exact spot where Maple is heading towards. It's directly focused on the exit into the parkade.
And there was actually a camera that was positioned exactly at the location where the shooting occurred. It was timed that every so many minutes it would pan, and about a minute before the shooting occurred, it panned away and totally missed the shooting.
It was a gut punch when that camera left, and all of a sudden we know at that time that's when this shooting is happening.
It was heartbreaking, actually, because it could have significantly supported our investigation.
Coming up on Crime Beat. While police struggle to gather evidence, Maple's family learns of a terrible secret. As family and friends attend the funeral of 19-year-old Maple Batalia, police scramble to find evidence that will lead them to the killer. They now return to Kamal Karamali with Picture Perfect, the shattered dreams of Maple Battalia.
Overwhelming grief takes over as mourners try to understand the death of a young woman. 800 family, friends, and strangers packed into Delta's Riverside Funeral Home to honor the short life of 19-year-old Maple Battalia.
I would say an angel, the light of my home. She being around, there was no darkness.
Her death has shocked the community.
What a wonderful lady. Gentle soul, beautiful, helpful. We'll all miss her. We will all miss her.
It's really sad. This kind of situation shouldn't happen to anybody. It's really devastated the community.
The Battalia family moved to Canada from India when Maple was just 5 months old. Right from the beginning, the camera loved her. Her parents named their youngest daughter Maple because it connected their new home to their old one.
Because there are maple trees only in existence in Kashmir, India. none other place in India. We thought she was the only jewel in our family.
Maple was the youngest of the 3 Battalia children. They saw her as the baby of the family. The center of attention, she undoubtedly brought joy into their lives.
She would jump in middle of us on the bed and say, "Now you guys have been sandwiched," and make us laugh.
Maple had this thing where she snorted at the end of her laugh each time, and she had this unique laugh.
I'm not quite sure how she was so positive. That's definitely Maple's secret sauce there.
Everyone says she was destined for big things.
Should be
She
doctor
would have
and
been
actor.
top Canadian doctor and actor.
I remember secretly joking to me and telling my mom too. She's like, if I make it in Hollywood, then the doctor dream will be kept to the side. I'm going to pursue Hollywood.
There was no doubt Maple loved the spotlight, whether it was a silly skit with friends or a mirror selfie.
She would love taking like mirror selfies, so I secretly would like barge in sometimes while she's like on her camera sessions.
But it paid off. Her modeling career took off. Shoot after shoot, even landing a small acting role in a major film production.
Being East Indian, she still decided to go do modeling. And I feel like a lot of people in our community can be a little close-minded that we shouldn't be revealing clothing, we shouldn't be doing certain things. She was very the type of person, she didn't care. She wanted to do it, she went and did it.
But before all the success and fame, she had already caught someone else's attention.
I was close friends with Gary, actually, Gary Dollywell, and he was a pretty decent guy.
She met him through friends at a basketball event, and they became friends, and then ultimately started talking, and then Maple let us know, hey, someone I like. We got to know his family, and my mom and his mom became friends.
Best friends, in fact, and at 14 years old, Maple had started dating Gary Dollywell.
He was the type of guy that there'd be like flowers at the door, or like just little things like that, and just it was like, it seemed like she was happy.
But friends and family say they noticed the more time she spent with her boyfriend Gary Dollywell, the less she acted like herself.
And there would be like times where we would make plans, where she'd make plans with me or my niece and nephew, and all of a sudden he would call abruptly, and then she's like, no, I can't go, or she'd make up some excuse.
There were so many times that she wasn't able to attend events with us, or she just would cancel on us last minute, saying that, oh, I have to go with my mom. We actually have a family event, but really it was Gary calling her multiple times saying you're not allowed to go.
Were there ever any signs that you or any of her other friends noticed that she was being physically harmed?
We went to Cuba for a graduation trip. It was in Cuba, it was a night event, and she shows up in sunglasses. It was very dark. Gary had sunglasses on as well. Of course, we had no idea, and we just thought, okay, are they trying to be really cool? We don't understand what's going on. But instead of questioning what was going on or asking her if she's okay, we were very upset that she hadn't left her room and she missed out on so many activities with us.
But months later, her friend Benicia says Maple told her what really happened that night.
She told us that I received a text from a coworker of ours from Staples. I received a text message, and Gary saw it. It was related to work, and he saw it and gave me a black eye.
I said, why are you wearing a glass? Oh no, I slipped and did this, and she told me all the lies and stuff, and didn't tell about what had happened.
Why do you think she never approached you and told you how bad it was or how serious it was?
That's the bad part of the thing.
She thinks she can handle everything, you know?
Dollywell was never charged for the alleged assault. In fact, Maple didn't tell anyone at the time. Maple's parents believed she was protecting everyone around her. Gary Dollywell and his family had become very close with the Battalias by now.
I suggested, like, maybe we should change your number. Let's go change your number together. And she was like, no, Anisha, we can't do that, because if I do that, that's when it may trigger him to do something to me or my family.
As Maple and Gary's relationship went on, their paths began to diverge.
I found out that Gary was cheating on Maple with a girl from my class. And eventually I called her and I told her. And she pretty much said to me that I already know, but thanks for letting me know.
So he started putting Maple down throughout the relationship. He started to say that Maple wasn't pretty enough for cameras, she wasn't pretty enough to be in film or to be an actress.
She started becoming very withdrawn, and she was very quiet, and she didn't seem like herself.
There was an internal battle. Maple would push him away, but family say Gary would pull her right back in.
When Gary wrote, it was always, "I'm sorry. I'll do better next time." That's not exactly what I meant. Where on Maple's side, it's, it's okay, I'll take you back, but please don't do that again.
In late summer 2011, friends say Maple found out Gary had been cheating on her again. This time she wasn't going to turn a blind eye. After nearly 5 years together, she ended it with him.
She actually used those words. "You talk to me like this, we're done." And his response is, "You're acting like my enemy, you don't want to be my enemy."
If it was a girls' night and we would often get ready at my house, we'd all be in the washroom getting ready together, and her phone would be ringing off the hook. There'd be 50 missed calls from him, and she would just flip her phone upside down.
Calling her sometimes hundreds of times in a day, texting her nonstop, showing up unannounced.
It was a club here in Surrey where Maple went out with her friends. At the end of that evening, Gary showed up in his Pathfinder and essentially just, as she's walking out with her friends, came in, confronted them all, and he ended up spitting on one of the people that he thought she was with.
Then in late September, 4 days before Maple was killed, the relationship between Maple and Gary hits a boiling point here at this Surrey Tim Hortons. In the early morning hours of September 24th, Maple goes to grab coffee with a guy friend, who we are not naming because of a publication ban. They order at the counter and head over to a table by the door. But Gary continues to bombard her with texts. Maple's friends say he would often circle the neighborhood looking for her car. It was no different this night. He spots her vehicle, Gary storms inside, and that's when things turn violent.
After the break, as Gary's disturbing behavior escalates, Maple decides to go to police. Gary's actions against Maple would become more frequent, leading to a violent confrontation at a Tim Hortons. We now return to Picture Perfect, the shattered dreams of Maple Batalia.
On September 24th, that there was an incident at Tim Hortons where Dhaliwal and Maple were together, and he assaulted someone that, a friend of Maple's that evening.
Gary attacks her friend. Maple is forced to calm Gary down. She walks him outside and gets into his vehicle.
Maple explained that this is just a friend of mine. We're not together. He still stole her cell phone. He insisted that she open the cell phone and let him read the text that she was sending and all the phone communication. And he ended up stealing that phone that evening. He wouldn't give it back to her.
When the Tim Hortons incident happened is when I really found out that he was abusive and he was this controlling person.
Just wondering if you can tell me what happened last night.
It was now clear to Maple breaking up with Gary wasn't enough. She goes to the police, reporting the Tim Hortons incident.
He hit my friend in the face, and then I got up and I was like, "Come outside right now," and I pushed him towards the door.
And how she believed he was following her and her mom around.
I was walking my dog with my mom, and I swear I saw his car drive by when we were walking. I'm like, "Mom, what the heck, driving around our area for?" Just what the hell? Like, why are you driving around my neighborhood? So,
because he doesn't live near you?
He doesn't live near me.
She files a no-contact order against her ex-boyfriend.
She was just like, the police automatically put a no-contact order, so I was like, okay, well, at least I feel better about that. She's like, he's not supposed to come where I work or live or go to school. And I was like, okay, well, that's good. And she just trusted that he would follow that. And so to us, it was just like, okay, this is in place, this will protect her.
How did she seem when she told you she'd broken up with Gary?
I think there was a sign of relief that she wasn't with him anymore. We felt that she was safer now.
But that would be short-lived. 4 days after the Tim Hortons incident, Maple is violently murdered in the university parking lot.
The manner in which Maple was killed was very traumatic, and it was traumatic for the first responders who were arriving.
Maple Batalia was shot 3 times. While she was lying there face down, her attacker then slashed her head with a knife 11 times.
It was overkill in the sense that the injuries to her head would not have killed her, but they seemed to me to be out of anger.
But they were slashes, and they just simply looked like somebody who was in a rage and he had inflicted those injuries. And the only one who in Maple's life who was that angry with her was Gary Dollywall.
Friends and family immediately point the finger at Gary Dollywall, highlighting a pattern of disturbing behavior.
You spoke to Gary that night. What did you say to him?
My exact words to him were, "Why did you hurt Maple?" And his response was very generic, very robotic. "Why would I hurt Maple? I love Maple." Like, it was just no emotion. It was just sounded very, very like, almost like rehearsed, like just they're very empty, like. And then I remember asking him, "Where are you?" And he was just like, "I'm at home playing video games or something." And I remember hanging up the phone and I said, "Mom, I don't believe him, he's lying."
After news of Maple's murder, friends and family pack into the Battalia family home to provide emotional support, among them Gary's mother.
I took her in my bedroom. She's too much crying. And I told her, so many times people curse small things, right? But I curse today. Your son gave me too much pain. This pain. This is the curse. I told in the front of her. Because he finished our life, not my daughter. He finished our family.
What was her response? What did she say?
She's crying. She's crying. She don't say anything.
The Dollywall family remains quiet.
We never had one single piece of evidence that was definitive. And what I mean by that is, we didn't have an eyewitness who said they watched Mr. Dollywall pull the trigger. We didn't have, his DNA anywhere.
But then finally a major break in the case.
With the video surveillance, we were able to establish that that was a 2011 Dodge Charger. And what we found out was the vast majority of those vehicles were rental vehicles. So one of the investigators who was going through all of those rentals recognized the name Gersmeer Betty. And that was the link between the white Dodge Charger and Gary Dollywall and Gary Betty.
Gary Betty, a new name none of the investigators had heard of before. No mention of him by Maple's friends and family as a possible suspect. So who was he? Turns out Gary Dollywall had texted Betty a couple of days before Maple died.
He had texted to Betty saying, "I need your help with something." And so we knew at that time something happened between them. There was communication between them.
I don't think they were very good friends. I think they knew each other. And I think that's in part why he chose Mr. Betty. By all accounts, Mr. Betty was not involved in crime or anything else.
Sunday, September 25th, 3 days before Maple's murder. Both Gary Betty and Gary Dollywall head over to Avis. Betty rents a white Dodge Charger under his name.
The race was on to get that vehicle.
Why was that a race?
For the perishability of that evidence that would be in there, right? The DNA evidence, we actually were super fortunate that it was actually just going in the back to be cleaned thoroughly, but it hadn't. It was like literally, it was in the back parking lot ready to be done. And of course, when they got the phone call, we're like, shut that down now.
We had a stroke of luck, if you will. When the casing ejected, one of the casings ejected, it hit the windshield and actually slid down and went underneath the hood of the car and remained there. So the bullet casing that was found physically on the car or underneath the hood of the car was ballistically matched to the bullet casings that were found at the scene. So that was a very important piece where we could definitively link that rental vehicle to the murder and to Mr. Dhaliwal.
Investigators thought this may be enough to move in for the arrest, but it wasn't.
The police came to the Crown a couple of times with the evidence that they thought that was going to be enough to lay the charges, and the Regional Crown Counsel decided there wasn't.
Coming up on Crime Beat, police get a break in the case, tying the suspected vehicle used in the murder to Maple Batalia's ex-boyfriend. But will it be enough? Welcome back to Crime Beat. With an arrest imminent, police piece together the events that led up to Maple's murder. We now return to Picture Perfect, the shattered dreams of Maple Batalia.
To build a case against Dhaliwal, police decide on a new game plan. Instead of one or two major pieces of evidence, they focus on smaller pieces that could lead to an arrest.
But a circumstantial case is like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And at some point you have enough pieces to see the entire picture, and at some point you don't.
And so we had to put together what's called a circumstantial case, where piece by piece we were able to show that the person and the only person who could be responsible was Mr. Dhaliwal.
One little thing led to another that led to another, and the forensic evidence in that vehicle, the strength of that evidence was the blood that was recovered from inside that vehicle was all on the driver's side. The gunshot residue was on the steering wheel. The casing that was found was on the driver's side of the vehicle. That showed us whoever was driving that vehicle is our killer.
The bullet casing and Maple's blood in the vehicle was a start. But what about the gun?
On the Sunday, the same day that they went to purchase the vehicle, Gary was making arrangements to purchase a firearm. And he had gone to the bank to get money. And so we know on Monday, the same day that the vehicle was rented, he purchased a firearm as well. Later that evening, on the Sunday evening, we were able to determine that he actually went out and test fired that gun.
And the gun, where is it now?
So the gun is, it was never recovered. We think he's thrown it in the river somewhere.
That didn't help much, but the knife used on Maple was a different story.
That was a very key piece of evidence. Ultimately, we did recover Maple's blood and hair on that knife, so we know that was used in the offense. You know, we didn't have the forensic link to Dhaliwal, but we had the purchase of that. And not only that, it was a PIN activation. So we know whoever had that card that day used his PIN in order to purchase that knife. Pouring through, again, like hours of different camera angles of around that time of that purchase, we were able to find two images of Gary coming into the mall.
Seeing the video of him being there and having witnesses actually place him there at the time the knife was purchased, that was significant.
Investigators still needed to put Gary Dhaliwal directly in the white Dodge Charger that night.
When Mr. Betty rented the vehicle, he was captured on video, and he was with Mr. Dhaliwal when they rented the vehicle. There was video of them outside picking up the vehicle, and there was video of Mr. Betty washing the car and video of him returning it. And so all of those were pieces of our case.
And then another major piece, putting Gary Dhaliwal directly behind the wheel.
At about 6:30 that evening at McDonald's, there was double pane glass, so we couldn't 100% say it was him in that vehicle, but luckily enough, one of the people that served him that evening knew him, and it came forward saying, I know Gary Dhaliwal actually was in a white Dodge Charger. So that was a huge circumstantial piece that, 6-7 hours before the homicide, we know he's in control of that vehicle, he's behind the driver's seat.
That night, Dhaliwal and Betty's cell phones put the two next to each other at the SFU Surrey campus.
Those records were able to put Dhaliwal and Betty in connection with each other, and both of them in the vicinity of SFU.
In the vicinity of SFU, where Maple is studying the night of September 27th, just days after the no-contact order was placed. It isn't long after she settles in and opens up her laptop, a white Dodge Charger is seen in the parking lot, Gary Dhaliwal behind the wheel. But the driver is not alone. Just after 8 p.m., Gary Betty is dropped off at the campus entrance.
And Betty doesn't know exactly probably where she is. He's hunting around, trying to find her. He's in here speaking to Dhaliwal and reporting back what he's seeing.
After 45 minutes of circling the campus, Betty heads back outside and hops into Gary's car.
This car would come in and out of various cameras, and it did look all the world like a shark circling. And we just called it the Great White Shark.
About an hour later, Maple and her friend head out to the parking lot for a break.
You can see the Charger right around this area.
Dhaliwal is watching Maple right now.
He's watching this.
As they come back up, the car drives by just as Maple gets into the elevator.
That's the Charger. Immediately after they go downstairs, he's going down there to find out where she's going.
Around midnight, most of Maple's friends head out. She joins another friend, and by chance, it's the same guy Gary Dhaliwal had attacked at the Tim Hortons. Around 1 a.m., they leave. They walk down the stairs towards the door.
What you notice as here as you're coming down, that's exactly where the Charger was parked, right there. So easily a clear view inside of knowing that she's coming out. Shortly after 1 o'clock, this door opens and they start walking this way. And as the group of four walk in there, we know the Charger is parked over right there.
With Dhaliwal in the car.
With Dhaliwal and Betty in the car. Maple's car is parked right there.
And we know that when Maple walked out of the university doors, she was with another man, a friend of hers. And I believe that they had hugged each other to say goodbye for the evening, and I believe that threw him into a rage. And he reacted to that rage in killing her.
It was right here. The Charger pulls out, it parks, and then we know from the holes in the car, the bullets rang out right here. She was shot 3 times. He went back in and retrieved this knife and came back out, and for some reason he wanted to cut her.
By the time the police pieced together their theory of what happened, it's now been more than a year since Maple was killed.
That's when they brought the whole package to me, and I decided that there was enough. It was a completely circumstantial case, so it was going to be a very difficult case, but they presented it in a way that I thought, yep, I can take that to a jury.
We begin with news. Family and friends of a 19-year-old Surrey woman have been waiting for more than a year. 2 men have been arrested in connection with the murder of Maple Batalia.
14 months after Maple Batalia was brutally killed, police arrest Gary Dhaliwal and Gary Betty.
I remember being at work that day and, getting that call, that we made the arrests, and then really also surprised because we didn't know another person was involved, so that was a big shock to our family.
Gary Dhaliwal is taken into custody and questioned, but answers would be few and far between.
Because what happens, Gary, is that person.
Take me back to myself.
Not going to happen, Gary. This is real.
Dhaliwal is shown a picture of Maple in a body bag.
You can cover your ears, Gary. It's not going to make it go away. It's not going to change things, Gary. That's what you did. That is the reality. That's the reality, Gary. Yeah, well, you know what, Gary? You actually did that.
I just want to know why. Like, me and my family want to be able to move on. We want to try and heal.
They bring in Maple's sister Rosie.
Okay, I never thought I'd plan my 19-year-old little sister's funeral. I never thought I'd see her in a casket. And if there's a part of you that at least loved my sister and feels sorry for what's happened, now's your chance to make things right. Tell us you're sorry.
And then police put Maple's mom on the phone.
Hi, Vita. Gary? Gary?
Yeah.
Coming up, Maple's mother finally gets to confront who she believes to be her daughter's killer and asks him to confess. Welcome back. While Maple's family pleads with Gary to confess, police reveal their theory as to what happened. Here now is Kamal Karamali with the conclusion of Picture Perfect, the shattered dreams of Maple Batalia.
Hi, Vita. Gary? Gary?
Yeah.
After 14 agonizing months of waiting, Sergeant Battalia begs Gary Dhaliwal to tell her what happened the night her daughter died.
ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ ਬੇਟੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਰਿਲੀਫ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਸੀਂ ਓਲਡ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ ਤੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਚ ਵੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੀ ਬਸ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੰਗੂ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੇਰੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਬੇਟੇ ਤੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਆ ਗੈਰੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
तो मैंने बहुत प्यार करता है पर मैं तो तेन हुण भी प्यार करती हूँ बच्चे गल कर कोई
हाँ जी तुसी किवें हाँ जी
हाँ जी बेटे
तुसी किवें
ਅਸੀਂ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ बस मैं ये सच जानना चाहती हूँ कि की होया सी बस तेरे मुँह तो ताकि असि रिलीफ ना मार सकी मेपल को जात और कुछ नहीं मैं कह सकती
आंटी एक मिनट कोनी just sorry for what you did man make it right Gary make it right you're not a bad you're not a gangster आंटी Gary मेरे ख्याल थाने कुछ कहना है ओ मांगे था थानू कहने हो sorry
आंटी
हाँ जी बच्चे
मैं बहुत ज़्यादा sorry
See? You need forgiveness, bro. You needed to hear that.
What is it, dude?
You will be.
कोई भी गलती करते हैं फिर भी सानू परमात्मा माफ करदा तो मेरा पोतिया मैं तैनू माफ करदी हां
I think talking to the family, having that time with them and understanding that what they needed, and he could feel that emotion from them, Rosie in person and Sarbjeet over the phone, I think it had to have been an impactful thing on him.
Once all that happened, we then actually worked towards getting some other information that was corroborating in nature that was important to our investigation to help prove our case.
He talked about purchasing the knife. He talked about having that vehicle.
It wasn't a full confession. It was admissions of certain pieces of evidence about his anger at Maple for breaking up with him. But there was enough to add to the circumstantial evidence that the police had already gathered that made the case a bit stronger.
But it would take years before the case made it to trial. That day finally came 3.5 years after the arrests.
Yeah, at times it was really hard, just with the rescheduling of the trial, the delay tactics these people use, like changing lawyers mid-court sessions, and it just was feeling really, really overwhelming and overburdening. And I was like, you know, we can't give up.
A shocking start to a case that's dragged its way through the court system.
Maple Battalia's mom and dad come to court. Silent, but undoubtedly they've been told their daughter's murderer is about to plead guilty, not to first, but to second-degree murder. In court, Gurjinder Gary Dhaliwal in a soft voice says guilty.
And a theory is revealed in court to do with Maple's male friend, the one attacked by Gary at the Tim Hortons, the one with her at the university campus parking lot library right before she was killed.
There was a kind of a half hug, and then his two friends went off to the right, and Maple went off to the left where her car was. And it was our theory that that enraged Dhaliwal to the point where he acted as he did. Our theory had been that he was there to keep an eye on what Maple was doing and using Gary Betty as his eyes and ears. But we actually think that he was probably going to confront them.
Gurjinder Gary Dhaliwal is sentenced to life in prison, his parole set for 21 years. Gary Betty was sentenced to 22 months for accessory after the fact to the crime. He has since been released. Betty maintains that he did not intend for Maple to get murdered that night and unknowingly played a role in helping Dhaliwal kill her.
It was a major disappointment to my family and me. I personally don't believe that if Gary Beatty didn't help, that someone else would go along. It takes, like I said, a certain type of person to be able to agree to do those type of things.
There is one lingering question that haunts the Battalia family. Maple had reported Gary Dhaliwal to police and even got a no-contact order issued against him. What more could she have done? Family had thought Gary would have given her space after that.
Definitely a lot of anger, a lot of like, why did this happen to her? And it was just, and then there's also this overwhelming sense of guilt, like wish we could have done something. Just that sense of not being able to protect her really was a hard thing for me and my family to digest.
Do you forgive your daughter's killer?
No.
Will you ever find it in you to forgive?
No.
If Gary is watching, what would you like to say to him?
It should be shameful for him to having acted in such a way that it's such a ghastly manner he behaved.
I give the message to him. He don't kill the Maple, he kill his parents and our. We have no life. We are alive only. We have no desire, we have no nothing. And his parents too.
Maple still a part of their lives, her voicemail still saved on their phones.
I have reached the Battalia family. Please leave your name and number and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.
And for a family who feels like they lost it all, they give back. Scholarships in Maple's name, a daycare built in India, in hopes that others can live out their dreams when Maple couldn't.
March 4th, 2022, Maple would have turned 30 years old. What do you think she would be like as a woman?
The most wonderful person in our family, caring for the parents and the community and friends.
Today there are signs of Maple Battalia everywhere. Her parents visit her every day at this park next to their home. It's where they used to walk with their daughter all those years ago.
I never forget this park when we walk here, Maple and me, always every day walking here and there. Sometimes I think she's with me.
And right next to the bench, a maple tree that keeps growing each day in memory of the 19-year-old who will never have a chance to.
We reached out to Gary Dhaliwal through his lawyers and the Correctional Service of Canada. He declined our request for an interview. But Maple's story continues to be told as a warning tale. Her friends, alongside RCMP, now going from school to school across the province, speaking to students about intimate partner violence, the signs to look out for, and how to seek help. Another way Maple continues to make a difference long after her passing.
I'm Anthony Robart. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat.
Want more episodes of Crime Beat? Listen to the Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And for past episodes of Crime Beat, check out our YouTube page, globaltv.com, or download the Global Go app.